Hello, this video is about the best practices for creating secure online quizzes in D2L. Securing quizzes has really two levels. One is at the quiz level itself, and the second is at a network level. At the quiz level, you can do things like shuffle the question, randomize question, have time restriction, paging restriction, put passwords on the quiz, have an honesty declaration, use lockdown browser, several things. Many of these things, like question shuffle, randomizing questions, we'll be looking at in a different video. For this one, we're going to look at trying to lock down, make the quiz as secure as possible at the network and the access level. So to do that, go to quizzes. We'll use this one, sample quiz. Go edit the properties of the quiz. The first thing with security in D2L is to set the availability date. If there are no dates set, that means the quiz is available at any time. No start date, no end date. So the first thing to do is put a start date and an end date. Here's the end date, usually on the same day. And the quiz will start at, let's say, 2 p.m. and it will end at 3 p.m. Now, what does this mean? This means that in your classroom, the door opens at 2 p.m. and it closes at 3 p.m. So if the student tries to access the quiz before 2 p.m. or after 3 p.m., it will not be available. Here you can add the availability dates to the calendar so the student can see the quiz in their calendar. The next thing to do is add a password. So once you add a password, the students will need to use that password to access the quiz. In a classroom setting, when everybody's seated and ready, you could write this password on the board. Student type in the password. Then once everybody's okay, you could actually change the password and click save. What this does is if the student may have a second to text this password to a cohort outside, they wouldn't be able to do it. The next consideration is IP restriction. Okay, think of the IP restriction as an address. In other words, you only want the students to write this exam on campus. So what you do is you put in the IP range for our campus. Now you'll need to check this because it's possible it could change. But at the time of this video, the IP address is here and here. So it's the same for the beginning and end. You can check this with IT and to make sure that this is the correct one at the time. You can add multiple IP ranges, but right now we have one IP for the campus. What does that mean? It means the student must be on the campus UDST network to write the quiz. If they're at home or have a cohort in a coffee shop, then it won't be this IP address and the quiz will not run. So we'll just add this. So there's an IP restriction. The next thing is timing and display. Right now, this quiz is set for 2 hours. The problem is our classroom opens at 2, closes at 3. So student could still have longer than the time required here. So let's just make it the same as the open and close. So it's a 60-minute quiz. Okay, and we'll just move up here. Start at 2, end at 3. They have 60 minutes to write the quiz. Now, let's say a student starts late, comes in at 2:15. Right now, they have 60 minutes to write the quiz. D2L will allow them to 60 minutes, which will actually go past the time that your door to your classroom is closed. How do we handle it? Click on timer settings. And here you have a choice of asynchronous or synchronous. Asynchronous means the timer starts when the learner launches the quiz. So if the student comes in at 2:15, they would still have 60 minutes. If he comes in at 2:30, they would still have 60 minutes. But if you switch to synchronous, and this is mostly what you want, they have 60 minutes, but it starts at 2, it ends at 3. Okay? So the timer starts when they start. So if they show up late in this case at 2:30, the quiz is set for 60 minutes. That's true, but the door closes at 3 p.m. and the quiz is automatically submitted at that point. Here, so when the time limit expires, what do you want to happen? We want it to automatically submit the quiz attempt. You could flag it as exceeding time or do nothing. Most of the time, this is what you want, automatically submit the quiz. Click OK. This is shuffle quiz questions here. We talked a little bit about that. There's actually another video with regard to how to manage the questions in your quiz. The next important thing is to make sure that if you only want the students to have one attempt at the quiz, that one attempt is allowed. In certain situations, you may want more than one attempt, and you click Manage Attempts, and you can give 1, 2, 3, or more, and you pick, how do I want this graded? The highest attempt, lowest attempt, or the average. In this case, we just have one attempt. Evaluation and feedback. It's important to know what the student sees when they get evaluation and feedback. And what they get depends on you. First of all, you want to auto-publish any results to your gradebook. That's fine. Synchronize the gradebook on publish. That's fine. When published, display to learners just a grade here. You don't want any questions. Incorrect questions only. Incorrect questions only without the correct answers. All questions and all questions. Right now, this is set no questions, which means the student will only see the grade. If you want the student to see the questions, you would make another selection. But otherwise, they just see the grade. So that's a brief overview of quiz security. So let's do review. Make sure that you have your start date and end date set like this. Make sure that your quiz has a time limit like this. And the usual way to do it is have a synchronous start, meaning that everybody starts at the same time, 2 p.m. So the student must be there 5 minutes before the start time, get ready and go. You could enter a password to make it more secure, and you can manage IP restriction. Also, too, be careful about how the evaluation and feedback appears to the students. Set it up the way you want it. Okay, that's it for quiz security.